Good morning. No idea what I'm doing here right now. Let me look at this screen. Okay, you know what? This whole monitor setup thing is making it really difficult for me to see if you see me. And what a great pleasure that must be to be able to see me. Oh my gosh, you're so blessed. Okay, it's Tuesday, November the 11th, 2025. I'm trying to make light of something I'm working on within myself, right? So, mm, yeah, how we are in the world is very dependent on what we believe, right? So, that is sometimes humorous, sometimes very serious. And I don't want to get too serious because I think that our human experience fluctuates. And I've been helping with a specific problem that I've done most of my life. And I continue to do, so I continue to work on it. I don't stop working on it. It's the shadow self. And it's the shadow. Oh, look, there's a shadow at the door. Yeah, it's the shadow self. We're aware of the darkness, I hope, that is within all of us that emanates into this world. And that's your shadow self. But understanding the shadow rather than allowing your ego to convince you it's you know I'm your shadow. You have to work on your issues. Bless you. We all have them. Okay. I had incidents happen to me when I was very young. Incidents that were obviously outside of my control. I was incredibly young. It was before I was 6 or 7 years old. Most of the trauma in my life was evident, and it was not crisis, but it was a personal crisis because before you're about 6 or 7 years old, this applies to almost every human, is before you're 6 or 7 years old, the idea of you being in your own world is powerful. It sets your character. And in my world, before I was 6 or 7 years old, there were many challenges. Some I remember, and sadly, some of the more unhappy ones I remember. And then when you're about 7 or 8 years old, you recognize that you're a small person in a much bigger world of influence and, just it's massive. And you start to feel really, really small. Well, I already felt small because I'd already witnessed some fairly, I'm not going to go into detail, personal details, but I knew as a small child that I was being lied to constantly. Even when I was pre, these are difficult memories for me to access. But even before I could speak, there were things that weren't. I felt like I was in the wrong place. I felt I was in the wrong place. I didn't feel like I was um, in a safe environment. I didn't feel any sort of safety or security. Um, really, I mean, I'm not. There's no blame attached to my parents. There's no blame attached to. It was just my perception of things was very um, vivid and lucid to me, even before I entered into the bigger world, where all that happened was it got magnified. The fact that I felt like an outsider to my environment. And so the things that drove me to that manifested in my world because I believed it. So I created a nemesis. Oh gosh. Holmes, Sherlock Holmes. I can remember the very early movies and things that I looked at, and then sort of, but for some reason, was reading between the lines in movies and books and my education, and I kept zooming out and zooming in, and that was something that most of my friends didn't do. They were not like looking at the bigger picture. But I didn't believe anything that was on the news. I didn't. It wasn't. It was evident to me that this was a lie. This life that I was granted and born into was just it was all lies. It was all built. It was a huge tissue. It was a tissue, not an issue. It was a tissue of lies. I mean, they're kind of humorous if you look back and you treat it with a sort of like absurdist comedy look at it. But, and I'm sorry, this is very personal, but it does stem from an abused childhood. That's where my problems started. I was abused as a child, but not. I actually later in life, right from the get-go, I knew that I was not in the right place, and I didn't. It wasn't like a physical thing. Just my sense of being was like, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. So I kept creating what I wanted it to be, and that was pretty dangerous for a small child because you create, again, I'm going to use the word nemesis. You create your if you if you try and deal with your shadow without the adequate guidance, then your shadow can turn into this monster. And that's what happened. I created unknowingly as a child a nemesis that would grow, and it would grow in opposition to my central belief that I, for some reason, was planted on the wrong planet in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I look into all concepts like, time being fluid, different timelines, how to heal oneself by doing deep psychological readings. I mean, just uh, visiting with mystics, talking to mediums. I mean, but the only one that really makes sense is when I get into the Red Book and into Carl Jung and his explanations of the shadow, and this idea of, again, I entitled this Nemesis or something to do with Nemesis. But if we create if we create our friends and our family, and we extend beyond, which we do after we're like young, 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old, we enter into the big world. So you create this circle of friends. There's always going to be one. There's always going to be a shadow that you have to keep putting behind you. But I carry my shadow. I carry my shadow as a burden, or I did up until I think it was probably around the year 2000 that I stopped carrying my shadow. And then I gave it a face, and I gave it a place, and then I started to work with it, and I started to work with my shadow, and eventually got it to recede. But I had to work very hard. It's now 2020, 25 years later. My shadow is clearly behind me and not the driving force of my existence. I'm aware of it. I create it. It's a nemesis, and I put it. There are hints of my own psychological evaluation of self, and this all sounds very narcissistic, but it was something I had to deal with. But I had to deal with it. And did it affect others around me? Sure, of course. In a good way, maybe on some, but not on all. And, my awareness of that recognized that I put the Nemesis hat on people around me, some people. It's like, oh, you're my Nemesis. You're my enemy today. And it's like I create the enemy from within, and there is no enemy. There is no real enemy. The enemy is my own shadow, my own darkness that I've been carrying with me, like I say, since childhood. So how do I deal with it? Well, I've been doing something that is dangerous, I suppose. There's a danger in it. There's not fear, but there's a danger in it, which is putting the Nemesis hat on individuals that mess with my life to the point where I'm almost out of my own control. I control my emotions. I control my physical self. I control my mental self. And I control my spiritual self by a deeper understanding of what that means to me, not to anybody else, right? And then I can transmit and receive information. I've done this little trick, the 5 hands: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional self, and then transmitting and receiving information. I mean, these are human ways of dealing with the evident dark and light side of our own personalities, because we all have that. I haven't come across a single person who is godlike. I mean, there's a song I put out a while ago, and it said, I think it was a little clip from a quote from Alan Watts, and it says, "No man has seen God." Well, what does that mean? I mean, in Alan Watts' terms, he dived incredibly deeply into his own theological upbringing, his own scholarly upbringing within a framework of Christian belief. I didn't have such a framework with which to work with when I was young. He was raised to be in the church in England, and I think he even, I'm not sure if he became a pastor or a reverend or a minister for the church that he was raised in. I think he may have. I think I've seen pictures of him with a dog's collar on, you know, the white collar of the vicar, the supposed theological genius person that he turned into. But it's like the basis of his faith was probably there from birth, where I didn't have any. I wasn't raised. I was raised to question this validity, this reality. Now, is it better to believe in this reality and work through your issues, or is it better to accept the rigidity of your childhood, regardless, and just go, well, my parents believed in blah, so I believe in blah. I don't know. I mean, is it better? I mean, I'm wrestling with things, and I see people wrestling with their faith in God right now. I mean, a lot of people are abandoning the idea of God. Why is it that they're abandoning the idea of God? There has to be something better. I mean, I've met lots and lots and lots and lots of human beings. And I've interacted with a lot of them. And now, of course, I put the Nemesis hat on some of them. But, you know, you create our own enemy. We create our own world. We create our own love. We create our own idea of being. But is it better to question that and work through it with or without faith? Well, of course, you have to have faith in something. This can't be it. I mean, if you're willing to settle for this being it, then, you become atheistic, which is also a religion. Atheism is a religion. Atheism is the belief that there is nothing after death. And if I can remember things from my very, very early childhood, then I'm likely to be able to understand that I will appreciate there is something much bigger that to come, So I have faith in creation, because it's millions to one that you were created. So the roll of the dice says there's got to be something bigger than this. But what is it and how it's run, can take you down many, many different paths. I have a belief that there is a eternal life, but the concept of eternal life puts the fear of God in a lot of people, because they're only relating to their human experience. They're not letting go of their human experience and understanding that you came from nothing, you're going to nothing. You came from something, something, that spark. The sperm meets the egg, boom, that spark, you're going to something. you know. So it's like you're coming from something, you're going to something. This is the journey. The journey is to be explored, and the adventure starts immediately, and then it goes away. And when it goes away, does the journey end? No. This physical self might break down, but see, we're talking about death again. I don't want to talk about death, because I believe that we're eternal spirits. So that's just a belief system. But is it just a belief system? Is it? Am I imagining something either within myself or external to myself? Or is it in everything? Because if there is God, let's say consciousness, Yahweh, blah, 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 endless amounts of whatever you want to call God, right? So is it see, I'm doing this like it's external. Well, if it's external and it's in everything, then it's in you. And if that small but significant part of creation is within you, how do you express that during your very short but very adventurous human experience? Well, many people get to the point where it's like imagining ghosts, right? God is it's a ghostly figure external to you. I've never believed that that's a reality that I can grasp, because there has to be more than that. Not scientism, but there has to be something more than that. I don't think humans are ready for it, will ever be ready for the complete, why would anybody call part of their book revelations? Because revelations are just predictions, right? I'm going to reveal the truth. Well, why are you the arbiter of truth? Why can't something else be the arbiter of truth? What is your truth? Your truth. I think those that have abandoned their God because of their church is one of the biggest problems we're seeing right now in the world. The church itself is corrupted by the people that run the church, the humans that run the church, right? So a lot of people are abandoning their faith in God, because God wouldn't have allowed that to happen, because they externalize God. Well, you're God. Create your own church. I think nature is as much of a leader in my life, like the nature of this earth, this earthly experience, this realm is as much a teacher to me as any other human that's telling me this is the way it is. Even Carl Jung. I mean, he took it as far as he could, but beyond that, I mean, it's like, Jungian philosophy is different from Jungian's psychology. It's a little different because he took it further than most psychologists and went deep within himself. He himself became a subject of his own study, because his journey was a manifestation of his beliefs, and he dug deep into himself in order to explain himself. And that's why the Red Book, I think, is one of the better ones, because it's more personal to him. I don't necessarily think that it's a truth. I don't think anything has the complete and utter perfect ring of truth for me. I don't think anything can in this realm. That's why I can easily say, this is fake, because you're pointing external. These a lot of the things I experience in this human experience are fake because they're beliefs that other people are projecting and you're projecting out into the world. So it becomes this what's the word? It either becomes a thing of great beauty that you've created, which is my counterbalance, or a homunculus, which is a monster made up of amalgams of ideas that just forms within its your imagination projected, a homunculus, which, I mean, and you sure that's happening too. But the thing is, it's like that's part of the human experience to understand the dark and the light. So you create great beauty in your music and art and all the things you do. I'm talking for self, in order to counterbalance the darkness you see in the world, but you produce the darkness too. This is why I think that in childhood, during trauma periods, you create an external nemesis. I mean, mine very young. I had, I was a couple of years old, 2, 3 years old. I'll tell you some personal memories, right? I was 2 years old when my brother was born. And he became my nemesis immediately he was born. Why? Because I was no longer the center of my mother's attention. Yeah. Even at 2 years old, the awareness of there being another mouth to feed, and then the consternation at having been born into a family that were pretty poor financially, but also like pretty poorly educated. They had children because it was expected of them. My mother admitted this. My father admitted this. It was like, no, we were expected to have children. It wasn't their choice. Anyway, that's another ball of wax. Oof. It's like, ooh. So immediately my brother was born. He became my nemesis because he took away, before, when you're very, very young, it's your world that other people enter into. Later, as I got older, when I was like 6, 7, when I started to think about my part in the bigger picture, the Nemesis hat that was sitting on my brother's head kind of wasn't that bad. I didn't grow to hate him. I grew to love him. So I loved my brother very, very dearly when I was young. We fought a lot. There was a lot of role playing and stupidity, but we fought a lot. But I loved him deeply, dearly. But he still kept wearing that hat. And I don't know why, but we've drifted apart. And now, even late in life, I'm 69, he's 67. That was good math, Nigel. Still, there's an echo of that nemesis that I see within him. I mean, my path and his path are completely opposite. But at the same time, was I in some way responsible? Yes, as his older brother, for his childhood trauma. I suppose in a way we all have some. No, I don't suppose we all have childhood trauma. It's how it manifests and how you keep keep going with it. You keep running with it, and it's like, wait a minute, it's time to work on it. So again, it wasn't until 2000, 25 years ago, maybe even slightly before that, that I started to see clearly the the light in the darkness that I was creating. It's still it's still every day that I have to center myself in my middle path to understand that there's always going to be a nemesis. There's always going to be an antithesis, thesis, antithesis. There's always going to be that. But to try and stay within the center of that being is being pushed and pulled by that which you create. So, in order to create great beauty and to stay a creative human being, we do different things. We do different things, different ways of reacting to this realm, because we're actually so when people talk today, modern talk, awareness, I'm awake, I'm aware, that sort of talk, it's kind of an arrogance, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if you're aware of how much your interaction with others uh, influences them, then you have to be pretty careful with your language. I mean, last night I said something to a friend, new friend, fairly new friend, but I said something to a friend that was flippant, throwaway, didn't think about it, just da, da, da. And I could tell immediately I'd said it. It was like, damn, I thought that was a little humorous, a little absurdist, but it was a throwaway line. Shouldn't have said it. Immediately I saw it in his face. It was like, oh my gosh, I've offended the guy. And then afterwards we talked about it. We talked about it clearly. And we cleared that dividing line between us. I had jumped to judgment on something that I was witnessing. And instead of working out why I was judging it that way, I just made a flippant comment. And that's why you have to be really guarded. I mean, I said some things yesterday to somebody else, another person that I interacted with, that was misinterpreted and they went off the rails. So yesterday I had a run-in with a bunch of people, including myself, I suppose, that I argued with. Okay. I love you. This is part of an ongoing thing. 1 second. Hello? So, please don't keep calling me. Please don't keep calling me. Nobody from Freeway should be calling me. Thank you. Ooh. Oh, I got lots of notifications. I turn my volume down on my phone. It's one of the ways I stop interacting. Gosh. This is a blessing and a curse, of course. Alexander Graham Bell, you invented the telephone. No, I don't know. Whatever. I don't give a shit who invented it, but it's a blessing and a curse. When given the tools to communicate, one has to have the ability to communicate, and language is falling very short. But back to awareness. Stay aware of who you are and what your influence is in this world, and recognize that you create pretty much all of your problems and all of your solutions. to the struggle that is life. I mean, you must learn to live it and you must learn to love it. But to live, love life, which has been my maxim forever, is to understand that this is a test of your strength as a human in this fluctuating world to err towards a more gracious and more empathetic and compassionate human being, so as you can carry on your journey past your physicality, your physical being in this world. This is the Church of Nigel. All right, I love you. That's about the end of it. I've been owing myself this for a long time. This was for me. Yeah. All right.